So this is like a magical moment because I am in the presence of two people that immediately, when I'm with them, I have an immediate sense of flourishing wellness. You'll see why in a moment. It is just, oh my God. So these are dear friends, Anna Bjurstam and Neil Jacobs, and they're extraordinary people. You know, just at a high level, I'm about to tell you some things that are extraordinary about the work that they do, but I really want you to know they're dear friends. And the first core of this is I love and appreciate both of you just from the bottom of my heart because of the individuals you are. And if you even weren't doing these extraordinary things that you're doing in the world, I would love you as much as well. So I just want you to know that's the first core. I so deeply respect who you are. You also happen to be doing some work at scale that is phenomenal. It's really phenomenal. You lead, both of you lead Six Senses, which has recently been acquired by the Intercontinental Group. Essentially Six Senses is a brand, a hospitality brand with destination retreats, incredible wellness destination retreats. The Six Senses brand, so sixsenses.com, okay. What you've created, and Neil is the CEO, Anna is the magician, okay, because Anna has been innovating, you know, with, you have a partnership, and I'm going to let you share, you have a partnership where, Anna, you've been the main innovator within the wellness industry in this brand of looking how far can we take this experience of flourishing wellness in this hospitality industry. And so I've been to a number of Six Senses. It is a sumptuous experience that creates an immersion of wellness. And so that's the work you're doing in the world. So I'm going to ask first for you, Neil, to introduce Anna, and then for Anna, for you to introduce Neil, just to actually kind of like, if you can help me magnify further the extraordinary individuals that you are. So Neil, take it away for Anna.
Well, firstly, you know that the love you talk about for us is reciprocated 100 times, right? I mean, I'd love to talk about you. I'm going to talk about Anna, but I'd love to talk about you too.
Well, we talk about, we did some work together in 2017 in Bangkok, you know, on Awakening Conscious Leadership, but we can get there. That was where we,
But Anna, I mean, you know, I could talk for days about Anna. I mean, we go back a long, long time, you know, we've probably known each other, I don't know, 20 years or so. But, you know, when Six Senses came along in 2011, we started talking about Six Senses. I mean, Anna was the first person that I actually called, and because she had knowledge of Six Senses from years ago. She'd done their first ever spa, and it was about, you know, who else was there in the wellness industry to talk to about this possibility, and the guidance she gave, and the focus on the past, what could be the future, we talked about for a long, long time, and it just became kind of essential for me that Anna be part of that from day, to the point that actually I didn't really want to do it unless she was part of it, because there really is nobody else I know of in this industry who has the capacity that she has, who has the intellect that she has, who has just the basic, the knowledge that she has around wellness and all aspects of wellness that I'm sure we'll talk about. And aside from being one of my absolute closest friends and confidants in the entire world. You know, you call her a magician. I mean, that's a pretty good word, because her impact on the evolution of Six Senses over the last 8 years, and our ability to transact the way we did is much due to Anna's impact on all of us, and Anna's creativity and what she has put together over the last years that just speak for itself. So I could go on, but you know, and what I really love is this stuff totally embarrasses her. You know, that's the best part of it.
You've just done a TED talk about Anna. It's a TED talk. Okay. All right.
I think Anna. I'm feeling a bit sick.
Yeah. Anna.
Oh my God. Neil. He is a wealth of wisdom, leadership. He is one of the kindest persons there is, and he's very relationship focused, always wanting the best. That goes first for everyone. Always caring. He has an innate love for service that I think anyone working in our industry should have, where they just love to give special experiences, and also has a visionary approach of allowing me. I can only function also in the sense that I'm allowed to function. So allowing me to function, to stretch, to be willing, to be courageous. That's something that is absolutely few people that has, and Neil has it in every way possible. I would also say that he leads with consciousness. He leads from within. He always tries to do the right thing, and has a deep spiritual connection that he doesn't always talk about, but it's always there in the background, and people who tap into him always feel it.
Yeah.
And that guiding light helps others to also tap into it, and also to expand their boundaries of what they can become.
Yeah, let me say, when you show up to like the Global Wellness Summit, or you're at this, it's the Davos for the global wellness industry, and as we do, we gather, in the rooms, but a lot of what happens is informal. It's the informal gatherings, and to hear how people talk about both of you, when you're not around, you get a sense. That's where you get a sense of essentially not. I don't like to say who's who in the room, but there's a sense of that, like, who are the people that are making a real difference? Everybody's making a real difference. But I wanted to just. I'm really kind of futzing around to struggle. To say that you're held in special esteem. You are both held in special esteem in the industry. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to share my screen. And what I'm going to share is, can you see, do you recognize this website?
Okay. Yeah, seen it before.
Yeah, okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to just, as this plays in the background, I just want you to share a little bit about the magic of Six Senses, about what your vision is. What are you looking to transfer in this experience? And then I'm gonna well, actually, here, can I just do this? I've got something fun. Here is where, after we did our work together I'm going to do this first. Hope I'm not going to crash my, okay. So I'm going to do this part first, and then I'm going to X out of the PowerPoint. But when after in 2017, when we worked together in Bangkok, I think we did a 3-day program together, right? On this Awakening Conscious Leadership. And then I went to the World Spa and Wellness Convention 2019. I did a presentation on Awakening Conscious Leadership, and then I used Six Senses as a case study. So I'm hoping that your values haven't changed too much, because so initially what I did in the conference, I spoke about this idea of, the relationship between conscious leadership and developing a conscious culture and the financial advantage of that in the hospitality industry. And so initially, what I've been talking about here, I use Sharon Kolker. She actually is the GM with Tony DeLead at Gwingana. So here's Sharon Kolker, like you, she also epitomizes that spirit of conscious leadership with Tony, at Gwingana. And this over here is them at Gwingana having an engaged culture, fully engaged culture that results in a rich guest experience, like a rich guest experience beyond what you would imagine that you could, literally the creativity that's driven. And that, by the way, results in a profitable enterprise. People do this. So then what I've shared next is the story of, I reversed the story. I spoke about the valued experience that you experience within six senses. And this was what I remember when you told me about this, that the essence of this is to help people reconnect with themselves, others, and the world around them. Does that still hold as the essence of six senses?
Sure does.
Yeah. Okay, beautiful. And then we backed up into, well, what kind of engaged culture would you need? And are these still your values?
Yeah. Sure is.
It's a local sensibility, local sensitivity. Well, let me pause here. I would love you to, Anna or Neil, who would like to actually kind of just elaborate on these?
Well, I'll take a few and then Anna can take a few, but Six Senses is born of a platform of sustainability long before anyone was talking sustainability. That's going back, 25 years ago, and hence the value of local sensitivity and global sensibility absolutely relates to how are we caring for the planet, how the planet, environment, local community, our own people, and so on. So, it's upfront and forward, and we have a really, really strong approach to all things sustainable, whether it's built environment or how we operate on an absolute day-to-day basis, and how we engage with community and help develop communities. So that's really there, and that kind of moves into the responsible and caring, because the two are super connected, but really a lot about people, about wellness. Anna may talk a little to our employee wellness programming that we call Mission Wellness, that took 2 years to create because it was so important and has become such a powerful piece of who we are. That kind of falls under responsible and caring. And crafted experiences relates to, we do properties in extraordinary parts of the world where we're not frightened of remote or unusual. It just needs to be beautiful. It needs to be powerful. It needs to talk to you. Whenever I would go on a site visit with Anna, we would do what people do on site visits, and we'd be with developers and bankers and so on. But Anna would always move away and be on her own on a piece of land and basically talk to the earth and really feel what was coming up through the earth and where we were. And that's what helped create crafted experiences. That's what helped create who we are, what we care about, what we believe in, and so on. And the experiences that we create for people to enjoy in these wonderful parts of the world where we're blessed to have properties. Anna, you do the other three. Go ahead.
Sure.
That's a great transition.
So Pioneer in Wellness is about being bold, not being afraid to try the new things. I mean, we introduced energy medicine last year into our portfolio with shamans and looking at honoring the earth and honoring ourselves and honoring the beautiful world and live in symbiosis with what we're doing. So it's not about coming up with new things. It's about pioneering how we can put all of wellness together in a way that it makes sense to people. And looking at, of course, what's new. So we can do biohacking and we can do ancient wisdom and we can do all of that and we can put it together in a wonderful soup. And it's going to taste beautifully good, well, because it's going to taste so well. So you just want to have more of it so you can get more well when you live in your own crafted way of wellness. So it's really a responsibility to be able to build a stage with a buffet of possibilities for our guests where they can become whole and well in their future, because there's not one way that is correct. There are so many ways. So we have the responsibility of just tapping into the field of that person and then helping them and guiding them on the way, and maybe having a big part or a small part, it doesn't matter, but anything we can do. And then emotional hospitality is obviously about truly connecting to our guests, to be truthful, to be honest, to have high integrity, to be real. And when we're real and when we really see our guests, that's when we can make a difference as well. And often when we speak to our guests afterwards of what do they remember, it's almost always a person that touched them, not the experience, not the place, not the paradise location. It's a person within our staff that touched them in a way that they'll never forget. And Fun and Quirk is about not taking ourselves, that Neil always says, don't take ourselves too serious. Have fun, be a bit crazy, have goats and property that we can milk and make cheese of, and pick some eggs from the chicken in the chicken coop we play classical music to, or whatever it is, but just have fun. Don't be too serious. So all of those things, I think, with sustainability and wellness and crafted experience and all of those things just creates what we want to do. But in essence, we want to help people reconnect and we want to make the world a better place in all our little small way.
Wow.
As you are as well, Daniel. So I think we should talk about you now.
Well, just before we go, I'm in no hurry, but so I just want to show the next slide, which is, this is the question, this is how we met, because when you have such a powerful experience, the mission of actually wanting to connect people with themselves, with others and the environment around them, and then you've got your values, naturally we ask the question, well, what are the qualities of leadership that drive an engaged culture, valued experience, and a profitable enterprise? And that was the work that you invested in when we got together in Bangkok. That, you know, it's always amazing to me that a big part of conscious capitalism is an act of humility. It's asking the question, who do we need to become? It's not a given. I mean, you can have a glorious, I mean, you can have all of those values, but they can actually be just literally a plaque on a wall, right? But how do you make that a lived experience into the experience of the guest? How do you, and the answer is, it requires leadership. It requires leadership. And you are already, I mean, I consider you already, when I met you, conscious leaders. That it was the investment of saying, we need to invest in this. And I think Anna, we had been doing some work together. And I remember that conversation when we sat down with Neil and we had a conversation of what are we going to design here for the program. And Neil, your opening into wanting to make the investment just revealed something about, you know, leadership is an act of humility and curiosity. You know, and I think that's what actually kind of makes you such an extraordinary leader in the community. because you're so relational and you continually have this thirst for learning and growth. You continual thirst for learning and growth. So that was actually set us up for experience. Now, as you were talking through, I'm in this world of conscious capitalism, and I'm thinking, oh my God, you need to actually talk at the next conscious capitalism conference, about six senses, because this is a model of conscious capitalism in the hospitality industry. This is like a model. And I'm going to come to it later on, and we'll talk about the initiative. So you'll have connectivity there. But so what I want to do is, that said, I want to see if I can X out of this and get back to now. Okay, now here are six senses. I'm going to let this play in the background. And just so you can, I want people to actually, now they've seen all of this, but this is like, on your website, and what you've got over here is you've got these destinations rolling through. And, I just want, if you can, first of all, capture the scale of this, in terms of nuts and bolts. How many properties do you have, both in terms of the destination retreats? How many countries are you in? And I know you have also standalone spas that you do. So can you actually just speak to the largeness of this within the intercontinental? This is it's a brand within a larger brand, but it's like a jewel within the brand of Intercontinental.
Yeah, we certainly can. I mean, we have about 17 operating hotels today in about 15 countries. And we have close to 20 properties under development. So as much time is being spent on growth and the new properties as the ones that are open. And we've evolved from being predominantly a Southeast Asian resort group, which is where we were in 2012, and today we have pretty much a global platform with what is open, or what has opened over the last few years, and what's coming as well, right?
So I'm looking over here. So it's Asia, you've got Europe, Middle East, and I'm imagining if I click on any of these, would you recommend, which one would you want me to click on, just to would you want to just give a taste of?
Well, you should look at Bhutan, actually.
Okay, yeah, okay, if I click on this, hopefully that'll come up. All right, this is Bhutan. Oh my God, look, okay.
Yeah, I mean, Bhutan is a unique country in the world, right? I mean, there's nothing else out there like Bhutan. And from, obviously, it's a very Buddhist environment. I mean, there aren't many people there. It's not that simple to get to. And we have 5 lodges throughout the country, and we encourage people to do a circuit around Bhutan, in 5 different valleys, 5 different kind of environments. Each lodge is different. It looks and feels different. And I would love Anna to talk. The thing about Bhutan is something called they call gross national happiness, which has had a lot of press over the last 15 years. So they don't talk about profit, they talk about happiness and the impact on the country. So Anna, why don't you talk a little about the wellness journey you created there for a second?
Well, for Bhutan, we wanted to take people.
If I click on here, would that bring up the journey? Is that right?
Maybe.
All right.
I mean, we have so many there because there's so much to see. But what we wanted to do is that each of the lodges got each of the 5. We took 7 of the principal because the others are political, but 7 of the principles, and 2 were overarching, wellness and sustainability. But we looked at each lodge taking on one happiness principle, and you experience that. So one of the happiness principle that they calculate, and this is very scientific, is how many hours you work and how many hours you sleep. So we have in Punakha, we have a whole lodge dedicated to sleep. Inner creativity and cultivation of culture. So we have a whole lodge in Bumtang looking at birds, archery, stone bath, and other things that are culturally introspective. So what we want to do when guests go through the 5 lodges in Bhutan is to give them a journey of happiness. So when they come out, it's not only wellness, because as you've said so wisely when we spoke before, is that purpose is important and happiness is part of that. So we want to give them a taste of
are these
the
lodges
happiness so they can come out and know some
Yeah.
of the tools that you use in Bhutan
okay,
in order to create happiness.
so here's 6 senses. This is one of the 6 lodges. This is 6 senses Thimpu.
Yeah.
They separate lodges. What you've done is what's so innovative is, are these in the separate valleys or are these in the same location? So what you've
No,
done,
it's separate places. So you go through Bhutan because Bhutan is in 3 climate zones. So you can't go to one place.
So this is extraordinary. So what you've done in this location, because in some locations you've got everything in one place, but because you wanted to create a journey in Bhutan, you actually created 6, like a pilgrimage where you can go from lodge to lodge to lodge. So I want you to understand, I want everybody to understand the incredible innovation, the incredible innovation. So let's go through lodge by lodge, because I think this is like, I'm blown away right now. I'm just like, I'm geeking out on this. I don't know what geeking out is not, I'm like souling out. Okay. I'm going nuts. Okay. Let's talk about each of these lodges in, this, so what is 6 senses? What is that lodge dedicated to?
Neil, do you want to go?
Well, you could have to talk about the spas, but Thimphu is the capital, is the capital of Bhutan. So it's where, it's the biggest town, which is still not very, very big. It's where the royal family live. It's where the palaces live. It's where the main temple that they call Dzong is, and we're perched kind of above the town and looking at an extraordinary valley, and there's a huge Buddha around the corner that you're not seeing here. So I mean, not everyone will do 5, but everyone will do Thimphu because it is the center of the country, so to speak.
Beautiful. And then you've got Punakha.
Yeah. I mean, Punakha is much warmer. You are in the foothills of the Himalayas, the Himalayas here, and so as Anna said, you've got three climates. The hottest part is Punakha, is in this valley, and the main Dzong is just extraordinary there, the Punakha Dzong. I mean, we've only got shots here of the lodges, but Paro, most people would have heard of, because that's where the hike up to something called Tiger's Nest is, which is this incredible temple literally built into the side of a mountain, and it's a 2-3 hour hike up to this place. I mean, you've just never seen anything like it. And Gangte is the home of the black-necked crane. So you get all the bird watchers going here, and they only come a few weeks a year. I mean, but there's festivals throughout Bhutan all year long. And Bumtang is a flight away. It's the east of the country, very special, forested, and wonderful winter festivals, as we say here. So each environment is different, and that's what's so beautiful.
So yeah, you've got now, I mean, I just look at the website. I mean, you can imagine you're just in one of the locations, and you've got like the other 17 that are customized and crafted experiences for the country. So I encourage you to, if your heart sings at this, explore each of these. And so, Anna, could you, I'm imagining this, opens a doorway for you to talk about the wellness experience that's threaded through all of this, right?
Yes, I mean, if we go through the various wellness experience, we have Thimphu, as we said, the capital is about health. So this is our flagship where we also have our biggest spa, and it's about finding out what your health status is in. And also we do an assessment, both with biomarkers readings as well as a coaching session to look at what do you need when you go through this journey. So generally here in Thimphu that happened, and the focus is health. And then if we go to Punakha, as we spoke about, it's about time balance. And we do a lot of walking meditation. We do some food treatments because that's very good for sleep. So it's about basically just taking care. And I think you said every moment counts. So it's about time balance and what we do with each moment.
Okay, so
and then
I'm just going.
Yes, go ahead.
Thimphu, we spoke about Punakha, and then Paro.
Paro. That's the happiness practice is education, because education is free for everyone in Bhutan, and it's basically placed on, and a lot of the education there is placed on social and personal values, on maintaining the culture and spiritual values of the country. So it's really about in Paro to experience Bhutan as a country, and basically learn of what makes Bhutan so special. So it's an educational process about Bhutan and how that also can connect with you. And then we have Gangte, where the happiness practice is psychological well-being. And this is one of my favorites, because here's where we talk about, in this busy world, of how do we see wonder, how do we see awe. And one of, I think, the most important factors for us all is curiosity. So we talked before about asking questions. So we ask the guests to think about questions they want to ask when they're there. Like, I wonder how cold the water in the rice field is, or I wonder what a yacht would smell like. I wonder how warm the earth is in the sun. So these are the questions of wonder and awe. And I think that's hugely important for psychological well-being. And the last one is Buntam, which is about culture. And it's about Buddhism, of course, and learning about Buddhism, because you have to do that. Om Mani Padme Hung, and what that means, and also archery as part of the culture. And archery is archery, like bow, is something that is highly spiritual as well, because you're so focused in the moment. So those are very, very quickly the 5 focuses on happiness, and we've chosen these 5 and applied one for each of the lodges for a guest to go through what in Bhutan happiness means for them.
Wow, that is just extraordinary. That is just so extraordinary. So, well, thank you for giving us a window into the world. When initially when I said, I think I didn't oversell you, because I wanted people to understand just the extraordinary level of leadership, conscious leadership, and what you're driving with innovation that's in alignment with all of the values you've expressed. You've created a crafted experience honoring the Bhutan traditions and welcoming people into that authentic experience, of Bhutan. So it has been, thank you for inspiring us. I am so excited. So may I, well, where do you want to go from here?
Well, I mean, you are obviously going through a transformation yourself in your life. And I think everyone that watches this knows what you're going through, I would suspect.
Well,
but could you just kind of briefly, for those maybe that are listening to this for the first time, just tell us about what you're going through right now in life?
Yeah.
And your amazing miracle and transformation, as you said, however hard it is for me to say it that way.
Well, you've set me up well, because what you said is I think it was in the lodge in Gauteng, you said that you wanted to inspire questions You want to inspire questions that lead you into a state of awe and wonder. And what I shared with you early on, because I know it's inconceivable for people to imagine, how is it possible that somebody with terminal cancer can be this happy? And I just want you to know it's authentic. I'm not trying to force anything. I'm not trying to think positive, but I've actually found myself in this world, and it's through the power of questions. And I've shared early on in the series that I've been through this exchange approach. And, you know, this community is led by John Berghoff, and John apprenticed with David Cooper-Ryder, the founder of Appreciative Inquiry, who had this incredible, profound statement. He said, questions create worlds. Questions create worlds. And so when we understand that, when you go through a traumatic experience, the default, because our brain is safety first, we naturally go into a series of questions that is around safety and survival. So the questions that you naturally ask yourself, and this is the key, the brain's first premise is not flourishing wellness. The brain's first primer is safety. That's the brain's first primer. So you almost have to cultivate a practice of wellness because your brain's reflex is safety. And so when you hear bad news, so-called bad news, the brain goes into questions like automatically into, oh my God, what if in every catastrophe that could happen? What's going to happen to my family? What's going to happen to my livelihood? What's going to happen? We go into that series of questions and like, when am I going to die? So you go into those safety first questions, and that takes you, by David Cooper-Ryder's, it takes you actually into a world of pain and suffering. It takes you into that world of pain and suffering. And so the gift of appreciative inquiry is at that pivot point, at that inflection point, and you all may be at an inflection point in your life right now listening. You know, my inflection point was cancer. I've had other inflection points in my life, but think about what inflection point may you be at right now in this time of COVID, a great awakening of systemic racism, deep political polarization. Like, what is your inflection point? And just in any of those, it might be, what do I do with my business? What do I do with my family? What do I do with, you know, we're divided within our family. What is your inflection point? So it's natural that at this inflection point, you may have a tree of questions that is actually, if you step back mindfully, and mindfulness is you almost kind of have to step back and look at yourself like a fly on the wall. Like what are my thoughts, sensations, emotions, trusting that you're not your thoughts, sensations, and emotions, moving into a place of observation. So notice the questions you might be asking right now. And if you're actually in a state of suffering, you may notice that some of those questions are leading you into a world of pain and suffering. So when I did that first night, I'm admitted to the hospital, get the news, I'm admitted to the ward by myself because my family can't come up, COVID, and I am in the spike of fear. And then I catch myself. And I see my questions that my brain is naturally asking by default. And then I reach in my mindfulness for the generative question. I open my heart to a generative question. And the miracle of asking a question of sufficient altitude that can actually have sufficient altitude that can then lead to a tree of questions below it, you can touch down with flourishing of your life. So at that point, when I was saying, what's going to happen to me? Why me? Why now? I consciously inserted another question. And the question that I inserted was, what matters most now? It was a question of purpose, high altitude. What matters most now? And inevitably, when your life is contracted, the lifespan is contracted, the natural answer that comes back, the only answer that makes sense is make every moment count. Make every moment count. And then it leads to another question. So what matters most now? Make every moment count. New question, how? How? And I got two answers back, part A, part B. Part A was live intensely loving relationships. Live intensely loving relationships. And I'm thinking about what you're expressing for, when you're saying reconnect, your ultimate guest experience, you want people to reconnect with themselves, with others, and with the environment. This is that's kind of like where I came to. Live intensely loving relationships. First of all, loving relationships with God, loving relationships with every touch point of people that I'm connecting with, from family, friends, and I have no strangers in my life right now. And then the environment. So I'm living, and then the question, how? And then it is, I have a framework, from the work that I teach, which is relationships are either in a cycle of reactivity, fight, flight, trigger, fight, flight, trigger, fight, flight, trigger. That's usually how we live our relationships. We live these cycles of reactivity. But the cycle of creativity in relationships is a cycle of fundamentally giving and receiving love with each other. Receiving others deeply with empathy and understanding, and giving with authenticity and care. And that's what you actually describe for your guest experiences, right? You describe that authenticity. I imagine you're having conversation with guests that's not always like sharing with guests what they want to hear, but actually sharing the truth that is service of their life, right? So I am very intentional now, and you can feel the intensity of the love that we're sharing with each other. We're receiving, this whole thing has been a cycle of receiving and giving love. And with you, we're receiving and giving love with all of you. So I am just so nourished by that. I'm my depth of prayer, how I'm receiving and giving in my spiritual life, my relationships with my heart has broken open. My heart has broken open. I'm loving my wife more deeply than I ever imagined I could. And it's not because she's different, it's because I'm different. I have a greater capacity to love right now. And it's delicious. So my relationships, our family relationships are coming alive. My relationships with my friends. And then, by the way, we're catalyzing a movement, that relationships that I've cultivated. We're all coming together, and we're now it's catalyzing a movement because, one of these things, Susie Ellis this gets into, let me get into the next piece. So that's part A. Part B is living into the legacy of my work. So it becomes an enduring legacy. And that's what this Living Well from Within channel has evolved into. It's actually me living into this legacy. And what it is, this Living Well from Within channel and playlist, it's essentially, it's a journey to deepen into healing, growth, and flourishing wellness that elevates individuals, families, both home families and work families, communities, and society, the world at large, to elevate humanity. So it's that big at every level. It's a fractal. At every level, it's a fractal. And this Living Well from Within channel is sufficient enough to be able to express that. So what has emerged in my insight as this, I am living a spiritual awakening that's made up of three components. The first component was what I imagined awakening to be, which was, from a heady place, the work of conscious leadership, that certain kind of wisdom. And now I'm realizing, because of where I've touched down, that actually that's only one part of it. The power source of conscious leadership is when it's connected to an awakened heart. this relational part, my heart has broken up. And you know what the beautiful thing is? When people first hear the news, and I know that you felt the same way, you were heartbroken too, right? You were heartbroken, but here's what's beautiful about you being heartbroken. What I love about you being heartbroken. Well, first of all, it's an awakening of compassion. And it's awakening of compassion. So when you get heartbroken, heart opens up and then the compassion flows out. Now, what's beautiful about that is, well, first of all, I just want you to know, I appreciate the compassion that flows towards me as good medicine, right? That's good medicine. But here's the thing. I will take only 10% of that. I insist that you keep 90% for yourself. As you open your heart, the more important thing is you be mindful of, my heart is opening, I'm awakening into compassion, and I insist that you invest the majority of that compassion radiated into yourself as self-compassion. And then as it radiates into your self-compassion, take the larger measure of that then and radiate that as compassion into your families, at home and at work, and then into your communities and the world at large in the glorious work that you do in this mission. So that's what's exciting to me about that. And it's interesting because we're gathering a coalition of movements. If I were to just come from this heady place and I said, hey, let's get together, we would never be able to mobilize a movement. But because people are heartbroken and heart awakened, that is the power source of conscious leadership connected to awakened heart. Now you've got the possibility for transformational change at scale. So that's the second component of awakening. The third component of awakening is this. And it really, it happened in a sequence of days, I think it was day 13, where day 13, like I got into a rhythm where I woke up and I did this little video where I set the intention for my day. And and I was very excited about the day because I was working with a number of coaching clients. And I don't know if you knew, but I coach the CEO of Conscious Capitalism on his conscious leadership. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah, so I coach Alexander McCoben, who's just an incredible dear friend. The moment he stepped into the role of CEO, that was the day that we essentially, right then and there, I coached him. I think we've been together 3 years. I've coached him on. So, I made a joke the other day, everything that Alexander that's done that has been, disruptive to the movement, I bear full responsibility, but everything he's done to catalyze the movement, he takes ownership of that. So in the morning, I was going to have the first conversation with Alexander. And part of what Conscious Capitalism is going through, they have all these CEO summits. But they've had to kind of put them on hold. And so we've been doing all of this online. We've been maintaining the community online. And I've been in a number of these groups where I have people are talking about their kids and, COVID, kids can't go to school, and then we've had there's been publication of Conscious Capitalism for Kids. So it dawns on me 2 weeks before that, I sent Alexander a message and I had this idea. I was going to pitch to him this idea that now's the time to found the teen chapter of Conscious Capitalism. So isn't that a cool idea? Would you want? So it's a great idea, and I know that if I pitched that, I kind of felt that there's so much going on that Alexander probably would have said, if it wasn't for my cancer, he probably would have said, Danny, that's an awesome idea, but I don't think the timing is right for that. But when he heard that I had cancer and that I wanted to leave a legacy with my work, and here's the kicker, and that I wanted my son Dylan, who's age 16, to become the founding chair of the teen chapter of Conscious Capitalism, the time was ripe. And so we have this video where he announced in the channel that Dylan is the founding chair of the newly established teen chapter of Conscious Capitalism. Now, but that's only name only. That's only name only. So then what happens next is I get the call after this incredible day. I get the call that my final path results, my biopsy results are away. So I get in the car and I go, I'm driving, and you can see me. I do these videos where I'm in fear. I'm in fear because the worst case scenario that I'm really concerned about is grade 4 glioblastoma. And I'm hoping that it's not going to be that. And my family is hoping that it's not going to be that. And it is that. And so I come back home, and Zach and Dill are waiting for me, us in the kitchen, and they look at us. I'm in the first stage of grief. I'm in shock, denial. I mean, I'm just like kind of processing through. I mean, and they see Sue and my faces, and they go into a grief response, and we all go into this unbelievable grief response, and they, wailing, and we're trying these experiments to come to our heart, to kind of settle down. That night was just, I mean, around the kitchen table, it was a mess. So we were cycling through all the stages of grief, rapid cycling. And I got a trace of acceptance by actually kind of running an experiment saying, while I may prefer this not to be this way, it is what it is. And that was where I actually got a little trace of acceptance, where I've now shifted. I'm shifting to 4. But here's what happened. We're running these experiments, and we're trying to kind of come to our heart. Said, let's try an experiment. Put love in our heart, and let's breathe love into all those places in our body that's suffering and aching. So we were trying to do, a mini modified heart math Tonglen practice, just trying to do that. And I'm getting like a nudge. I'm getting a nudge. But for Dylan, it's not working. Dylan's not working. So he grabs his phone. He says, I'm going upstairs to shoot a video. I'm going upstairs to shoot a video. And the video he shoots is the most extraordinary video one of the most extraordinary expressions I've ever seen in a teen. Because he starts the video this. He starts like this. He's raw and he's channeling something. It's not coming through his brain. He's just talking it out. He's talking it out in real time. It's coming through him. And then he starts out by the video by saying, I think I'm thinking about killing myself. I'm thinking about committing suicide. It's just too painful to bear. So he starts out there. And then miraculously, something shifts. Something comes into his body, a metaphor. Oh, come here. Come say hello to. I know Sue can't share.
Hey, Sue.
Yeah, we're on the. I'm on, unless you want. Okay, hang on.
Hey, Sue.
Hi, Anna. Hi, Neil.
How are you?
So good to see you both.
And
Good to see you too.
I just brought Danny.
Bulletproof coffee.
Oh my God.
I'm on a keto diet now for my radiation.
That is very good.
Yeah.
I love bulletproof coffee. I've had 2 today. I'm only allowed 1, but I've had 2.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to leave you now.
Okay.
Thank
Lots of
you.
love, Sue.
Love to both of you.
Me too.
Okay. Yeah. So, so it's just me. We are just, I'm so blessed. Just how Sue is just, I mean, she's the rock of my world as I'm going through all of this. And so I'm very blessed with resources and with, so I was sharing about the extraordinary thing. So Dylan is thinking about committing suicide. I mean, those thoughts are, I mean, he doesn't have a plan, but I mean, at least he has the impulse is within him. And then he's miraculously, something else enters his space by the grace of God, a metaphor. He finds a metaphor of a movie. And he finds a metaphor of a movie and he says, I feel like I'm in a movie. And this is the absolute worst place of the movie right now. It's got a 0% Rotten Tomato score. But then he does this. And he's awakening into his spiritual life. He says, I think there's somebody in the control box up there directing and running this movie. I have no control over that. And he's pointing up and he's saying, I have no control of it. it's being run by the box. And what he's talking about is God. He's pointing up and he's saying, this is being guided by God, whatever his concept of God is. And he says, I don't know how this movie is going to end, but what if the movie gets better? What if the movie gets better and I check out now? What if it gets to be a 50% Rotten Tomato score, a 60% Rotten Tomato? And then he says, you know, my dad writes movies that's 100% Rotten Tomato scores. So he says, and he's in real time, he says, no, I'm not going to check out. I want to see how this movie ends. I need to be here for the end of the movie. So what I'm thinking about is how many lives, he didn't only save his life that night, but that video alone needs to be watched by every teenager in the world. Because how many lives did he save? Because somebody decided not to check out early. You know, in January, sadly, my brother's son, Ben, shot himself to death. He was like in his 20s. And my pain is that he never got to watch this video of Dylan, because I truly believe his impulsive act, he wouldn't have pulled the trigger. So here's the script. As this all unfolds, in the morning, Dylan became the founding chair of conscious capitalism in name only. Then I got my diagnosis. And then that evening, he became the living embodiment of what it means to be a conscious capitalist, an awakened conscious leader as a teenager. So now he's actually stepped into the embodiment of it. And then I realized that this cosmic script actually calls for me to have grade 4 glioblastoma. It calls for me, the script calls for this, because if I didn't have that, he would never have had that. Our family would never have had that incredible result, that credible grief response with his catalytic growth by that evening, on that same day. And so here's the third dimension of my awakening. First dimension is, just coming to a certain element of wisdom, of a mindful awakening of what it means to be a conscious leader, connected now to an awakened heart. And this is the deepest source. The deepest source, the third dimension, is the spiritual awakening. It's being in full spiritual surrender. I am in full spiritual surrender, now serving God. I have completely embraced my diagnosis as this is what the script needs, and I am in full service of that. The ultimate source of servant leadership, the ultimate source is not serving your people. The ultimate source of servant leadership is being in service of this mysterious spirit that's guiding us to be our flourishing best in the world. That's what I'm experiencing as my full awakening right now. And I'm feeling so alive, feeling so blessed. And when you asked earlier on, Anna, how terminal is terminal, I am also blessed on this journey. The other arc of the story is I've got the best of conventional medicine. I've got the best of integrative holistic medicine, and I'm going through the spiritual awakening, this full awakening, which is changing my neurochemistry inside. I am running a different set of hormones that a lot of people run because of this, because of my loving family, because of my awakening. So I am fully optimized for moving beyond. The average survival from here on out is 15 months. I anticipate and I envision that I may well live well beyond that, and I hold open the possibility of a cure. And I know that's a so-called long shot, but I hold open the possibility of that. I envisage that. And at the same time, because I'm in full spiritual surrender, if that's not the outcome, and I would love that to be the outcome, because I think that would give hope to a lot of you with cancer that would be following me on my journey, and you would have a template for healing, providing an optimism. And I would love to serve you with that. But I also want you to know, if that's not my path and that's not God's will for me, and somehow I don't understand, I'm being called home for another reason. I'm in the full field, the full presence of this conscious field, this conscious loving field that I believe when my flesh melts off my bones, that I will remain in. I don't know what becomes of my consciousness, but I will remain in. My family will always have access to me in this field. And if I enter sooner rather than later, I'm ready. I'm ready. My mentor, Lee Lipsenthal, used to say, today's a good day to die. Why? Because I live with no regrets. And so, in a way, today, what's dying, I'll tell you what's dying in me. What's dying in me is my fear of death itself. That's what's dying in me. And because that's dying in me, what is being born is my full flourishing wellness in my life.
That's lovely. And I think, there's a couple of things, you probably don't know it, but I actually had a near-death experience when I was 14.
Yeah.
And felt everything that everyone is feeling as I was passing away. No one knows why I did not pass away. It was when I got into the ER, it was too late and there was no hope. And as I was realizing that I was passing away, I first had a huge, huge fear. And then I had the most beautiful feeling of bliss, a feeling that is unexplainable, cannot be. I've never felt it on earth, so to speak. It was between two worlds of everything is perfect. And I think not to have a fear of death is a absolutely beautiful thing. And to take, but it's not only what should be dying within anyone who hears this is everything that does not serve you. Yeah. And just to put that into, so to speak, and especially today, actually, because we are speaking on the winter solstice, and also at 7:22, I'm a shaman nowadays also. So at 7:22, the planets are Saturn and Jupiter are in perfect alignment, 7:22 Central European time. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a very auspicious day to tap into the field because the powers are there, and just to ask for light and spread light. And the more we spread, the more we get. But a spiritual awakening, everything is possible. And there is no such thing as terminal, because it's all possible. And spontaneous healing has happened. It's about visualizations. We were talking a bit earlier, and we talked about, do you visualize yourself being healed?
And
do you?
Well, I'm experiencing myself as being healed, like right now, like I'm living that visualization. So if I were to visualize what being healed was, I'd be visualizing this moment now. So I'm actually living the moment of my visualization. So I consider myself completely healed. I just happen to have a disease. And so, the Academy of Integrative Medicine's definition of optimal health is the conscious pursuit. And it's the arrival. It's the conscious pursuit. And I'm experiencing the arrival of the highest level of function of the physical, mental, emotional, social, spiritual, and environmental aspects of human experience, resulting in a state of fully alive. That's the state I find myself in right now. That's the state that I find myself in right now. And then that it adds, this exists regardless of the presence or absence of disease. And so I have a disease. And it's actually, I'm not thriving. I'm not thriving in spite of my cancer. I'm thriving because of my cancer. And so that's the gift. And I'm actually, Anna, when you said that you had a near-death experience, it's not lost on me that catalyzed in something in you to allow you to do this glorious creative work that you do to serve the world. It's related. It's all related. So I would not subtract. I can't, given the choice of what I'm feeling right now and how I was feeling before, and having cancer or not having cancer, I would take having this cancer I would check that box. And I'm on this journey serving patients with incredibly rich inside view of the world. What is What does the best of conventional medicine look like? What is the best of integrative holistic medicine? What is the best of coming together, living a rich life right now, not biding your time and waiting to live your rich life? To provide hope and healing. And whatever the future holds, the future holds. So I'm good with anything. So I want to come to the.
It is a gift. It is a gift. I mean, my disease was a huge gift. It is a gift. And when you see it as such and make the best out of it, that's beautiful.
I want to show you kind of what's on my coffee cup. This is my family. We took the picture in Costa Rica. Look at that. Pura vida, pure life. So, I want to end with an invitation. And so, Anna, you sit on the board of the Global Wellness Summit. You sit on the board of the Global Wellness Summit, and so you're well aware that Susie Ellison on day 25 in this video series said, Danny, what you're doing here with living well from within, this philosophy, this life, this expression, we would like to house it as the newest initiative in the Global Wellness Institute suite of initiatives. So what that does, it's moved it from being kind of purely video. What it does is it's moved it to place, it gives us an opportunity to convene. And these initiatives, it gives us the opportunity to gather an extraordinary group of leaders, many of which you'll see in after day 25, the list of leaders that are now coming in. And these are, I want to just show you, I'm working with, so let me show you. So I think I've got, yeah. So this is the document. Nobody's seen this yet, but this is the document we're building for the initiative. And I am working with Wendy and Sally, and Sue's the vice chair. So however, we'll have to see how these titles kind of, these are my preferential titles. And I know that there's a certain format within these initiatives, but this would be that I would be chair, Wendy and Sally would be co-chair, and Sue would be vice chair. But this over here is the vision for the, so you're getting a sneak view. So what we want to do is to create a coalition of awakened conscious leader who can facilitate healing, growth, and flourishing wellness to elevate humanity throughout the world. That's what this initiative is all about. And here's our why, our what, and our how. And this is the list of leaders that we've got so far. And by the way, I've already populated, you're already on the list. It's populated because I've set the intention that you were going to say yes. So I would like to now offer you the formal invitation. It would be the greatest of honor to have you join the coalition, because you have so much to contribute as a catalytic spark. And this, by the way, part of the coalition will be the leaders of conscious capitalism. So I'm imagining what would happen, how you would spark together. It's much bigger than all the work that we're doing in our own silos becomes magnified when we get into a larger ecosystem of connectivity where we can actually do this work together. And then we've got a lever that can do this work of healing, growth, and flourishing wellness in the world that elevates humanity. And it's not lost on me this time of historic need and opportunity.
I mean,
right.
But Danny, you're an inspiration, man. I mean, just to listen to you for the last 20 minutes or so, and just hear how you articulate all this, and just the intensity of the feeling and the truth behind it. I mean, I could sit and listen to you all night long, and it's very powerful, and you're very powerful as a result of what you're going through, and I mean, it's an extraordinary thing, and
Well,
I'm humbled.
well, Neil, I'm humbled too.
However we can.
Can I just, I want to just share with you, because like, it's really important that I state this. I'm a very ordinary person. I'm a very ordinary person. Here's what it is. But because I am channeling the free-flowing spirit, and I'm in the full spiritual surrender, I have been blessed to live an extraordinary life. So I'm an ordinary person, only living an extraordinary expression, because I'm in full service of the greater mystery that's channeling through me, that has my greatest gratitude for the extraordinary life that I'm living now.
Well, I would debate that with you at another time over a cup of tea.
Yeah, fair enough. It'll be a long
yeah, there's ordinary and there's ordinary. Okay.
Thank you, Neil. I appreciate that. So,
Thank you for inviting us and me. We are humble and gracefully accept.
thank you, Anna. Well, let me give you whatever you feel moved to share in this last minute. I will end off with what I usually do, with expression of love and gratitude. So whatever you feel is in your heart.
Well, I think I want to share. I'll start because Neil always has more wisdom than I have. And so I'll start so he can end. But I will want to, I'm so grateful for you, Danny. Ever since the day we first met, I don't know if it was 10 years ago or if it's more, we've had a really strong connection. And we've had a couple of interesting times together where we've had a lot of fun. And that has deepened our relationship. And it's been some challenges, but they were so good. And you're taking on this channel just as the challenges, just as you did before, and how you've always done. You just look at it and you open your eyes and you're curious and you look at it. What can I learn? What can I do? But there's few people on earth that has so much enthusiasm, love and goodness and energy. And for me, it's lovely also to hear that you've had this spiritual awakening, because this is obviously the gift, and that you're sharing it, and that everything can come together. We have a visible and we have a non-visible world, and both are so important for us. Purpose, we know, is so important for us. But you really, truly, I'm so grateful for all you've done. And when you came to Bangkok and did Leading Well From Within, that transformed many people's lives and our culture as a company. So what you share, what you spread, it's pure love, it's pure goodness. You're one of the most extraordinary people I know, and I'm so very grateful to know you and to be able to share whatever I can share to amplify the love in the world.
Wow.
Read that, Neil.
Tough to follow, Bjurstam. Tough to follow. But I'm gonna try.
Right.
No, I mean, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. But I mean, the only thing that I can say, and I mean, I echo all of what Anna said, but I think we met properly for the first time was in Florida, all right, when we sat down and we talked, and it for me it was a blink moment, you know, and that doesn't happen very often to me, that you meet somebody who has immediate impact, and you just know that this is a person in whose space I would like to reside, you know, because it was just the texture of it, the conversation, the emotiveness, and I mean, I remember actually saying to Anna afterwards, like, he's a pretty cool guy, you know. I kind of want to hang out with him. And that was the beginning, but it was immediate. And, you know, got to say, you don't disappoint, my friend.
Wow.
And for sure, what we did in Thailand was impactful. You know, we all thought we were doing a great job, and, you know, we're living in authenticity and honesty and all of that. And it didn't take you very long in your perfectly wonderful way to say, you guys are much too nice to each other. You know, I mean, that kind of resonates to this day. It goes, and it's not so real. You got to start being more real and telling people the hard truth. And you went down that road with us, and wow, you know, that had some fallout, but it was pretty good. And then the times that we've talked and you've coached, and you are, ordinary or not, a remarkable human being. And I'm really grateful that you're in my life, and I love you, and I'm confident as to your future on this earth. I don't know why, but I am. And this chat, this talk, this conversation has been wonderful. So thank you.
It has been magical. And I love you both from the depths of my heart. You enrich, knowing that you're in my life. I mean, I could honestly say my life would not be the same without either of you, because you bring such a depth. You also bring like for me, an encouragement, not only of you connecting us, but to know what's possible or what can manifest in the world. And from that journey that you all witnessed, what you've just manifested in just that one place in Bhutan, the spirit of who you are now lives in honoring the spirit of Bhutan, but bringing that spirit to the world. So I hope all of you have been blessed by this conversation, because ultimately, you know, we're here in service of you. We're here in service of you watching. And so I'm going to just leave. I'm going to pause record, and then just want to have a final word in private. So I'm going to pause the recording right now to just say how much I love and appreciate you, and how much I love and appreciate you listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.